Buckingham Palace has been thrown into utter chaos. Prince William has just declared himself king. No royal handover, no formal abdication, just a jaw-dropping statement that's rocked the monarchy to its core. Staff were frozen, Charles reportedly blindsided, and Kate standing right by his side. Is this a bold leap into the future, or a quiet royal coup? As news spreads like wildfire across the globe, one thing is clear: the crown is no longer waiting for tradition. William's taken it. And now, everything, from palace power to global perception, is hanging by a thread. Welcome to the royal shockwave no one saw coming. The royal announcement that stunned the palace. William strode into Buckingham's main hall this morning, flanked by aides, brief statement in hand, and delivered a bombshell. He declared himself king. No Regent William, no vague promise. King William V now. In a hush-hush address to palace staff, he said, "I stand before you as your king, but not in disregard of my father." Silence fell. Aides looked stunned. Guards recoiled. Comments like, "This is beyond anything protocol allows," were whispered. Was it a gentle takeover, or the start of a coup? Within minutes, palace couriers rushed to dispatch this declaration through internal channels. Staffers, trained for tradition, suddenly faced a jarring new order. One said later, "We were told to update everything: title, portrait, payroll, no press briefing, no royal assent from Charles, just a statement from William." And that left everyone wondering, did this break the law or redefine it? Word reached the media almost instantly. A single tweet from a palace insider read, "King William V announced at Buckingham at 9:17 a.m. Palace in lockdown." Headlines flashed: "Prince becomes king, treason or transition, US, Australia, India." Even local Edinburgh papers carried the story within minutes. Global news desks scrambled for context and commentary. "This is royal drama on a global stage," said one BBC anchor. Now, the question on everyone's lips: did William stage a coup? Or is Charles incapacitated? Royal watchers say this may be the most daring succession shift in a generation. One historian noted, "We've never seen a prince declare himself king outside a peaceful transition." And that makes everything and everyone nervous. The palace, public, and press all have one uneasy guess: this is just the beginning. Now that William has declared himself king, we must ask, why act now? It wasn't spontaneous. Reports of Charles's declining health, king-in-waiting fatigue, and Kate's counsel all built toward this moment. What pressures boiled over? What shaped this calculated move? Coming next, we examine the health rumors, generational shift, and political necessity that pushed William to take power before anyone else did. Why William acted now. It wasn't a rash decision. Sources close to William say he acted after worrying about his father's health. Charles's cancer treatment was reported to be taking a heavier toll. Energy dipping, appointments postponed, one insider leaked via people.com. William realized a moment of clarity was needed. "The public deserves a functioning monarch," he reportedly said to aides. The old restoration can't wait. At the same time, the public craves stability. Polls show anxiety rising. News of Charles's collapse created a nervous murmur across Britain. People want certainty, one survey found. William knew that waiting longer would spark more worry. "It's about stepping up," he told palace spokespersons. The move embodies his modern, transparent style. No more behind-the-scenes deals or vague regency. He's leading now. Kate had influence too. Though silent publicly, insiders confirmed the Duke and Duchess debated this move together. "She supports him completely," said one royal insider for CataluniaDiari.com. Her emphasis on unity and clarity helped shape William's announcement. "This is Generation Next Monarchy, a team. It's not just his crown now," the source noted. "It's theirs." Finally, political winds have shifted. Prime Minister's office reportedly warned palace officials that an uncertain succession could threaten national confidence. "The monarchy must be visible, not vague," one MP told reporters. With debates over the royal household budget intensifying, William knew he had to act fast. This isn't rebellion. It's damage control. And he's now the face of the reboot. With William's declaration shaking tradition, the palace has gone into panic mode. Plans are being redrawn, messages crafted, leaks monitored. The old guard and the newcomers stand on opposite sides. Now, Buckingham is in crisis management. Next up, how palace aides scrambled behind the scenes, which factions emerged, and how every move is under tight scrutiny as the monarchy resets in real time. Buckingham Palace in crisis mode. Immediately after William's speech, Buckingham turned into a war room. Senior advisors were summoned for emergency meetings on titles, official portraits, orders of business, and key notifications. "We needed to act fast," said one aide. "Within the hour, every department rethink their role." Courtiers whispered of firing and rehiring as titles and responsibilities were suddenly in flux. At the same time, the communications team created a dual-message script. One statement read, "No breach of protocol. This is a temporary step during the king's health situation." Another, for leaks, said, "All is within royal prerogative." Harper's Bazaar was already drafting FAQs for global outlets. Insiders said it was the most intense PR around since Diana. Crisis mode was now the new normal. Divisions became visible inside. Charles loyalists, who had remained quietly confident, now found themselves sidelined. Meanwhile, William's supporters moved in. "It split the household in two," said a palace insider. Factions formed, old guard versus future guard. Some aides were reassigned to less visible roles, said a staffer, to reduce potential leaks. In a palace famed for unity, fault lines were exposed. Meanwhile, Buckingham itself was physically locked down. Visitor entries denied. Cameras banned from corridors. Couriers searched. "They didn't want any more messy moments," said a guard. Courtiers faced gag orders. "It felt like martial law," revealed one. While the palace remained outwardly calm, a fierce reorganization was underway inside. And everything from who sits next to whom matters now more than ever. "What exactly?" William declared. William's exact words came in a moment no one expected. Standing beside a gold-inlaid lectern, he said, "I assume the mantle of responsibility for the continuity of the crown. I shall serve as King William V with immediate effect." The room went still. Palace staff glanced at each other. There were no trumpets, no formal robe, just pure declaration. The message was carefully crafted. He didn't say, "abdicate." He didn't claim full sovereignty. Instead, he positioned himself as a stabilizing force. "Until my father is ready to resume or reframe his role, "I will act in full royal capacity," William added. This created ambiguity. Was it regency or full transition? Either way, the power shift had begun. Behind the words was a strategy. Reports suggest he had quietly consulted with members of the Privy Council and a legal advisory team for weeks. He didn't rush this, a royal legal expert said. He was waiting for the moment Charles's health made it feasible. Some said the Prime Minister was looped in. Others claimed Parliament found out with the rest of the country. The tone of his speech was regal, but not cold. He looked directly into the camera and said, "This is not about ambition. It is about duty, clarity, and continuity." That line, echoed across social media, struck deep. He framed himself not as a son stepping up, but as a monarch stepping in. One commentator called it the softest hard power grab in royal history. With William's words still echoing in palace halls, the question turned to the man still technically king, Charles. How did he react? And more importantly, how did he feel? Was this betrayal or relief cloaked in pride? As William claimed the crown, Charles was watching from within, but not from the throne. Coming up next, Charles's silent storm inside royal walls. Charles's reaction. Charles was in his private suite at Clarence House when the announcement reached him. Aides say he stared at the television for several long seconds, then quietly said, "So it begins." No shouting, no demands, just that cryptic phrase. A man who's waited a lifetime to reign had just watched his own son claim his destiny, publicly. Behind closed doors, reactions were divided. One aide said Charles looked emotionally fractured. Another claimed he wept alone for over an hour. He reportedly told Camilla, "I never thought it would happen this way." But there was also a whisper of something else: relief. Some insiders say he told his doctor later, "Perhaps now I can rest." Whether that meant health, emotion, or reign, no one knows. Charles didn't release a statement, no public confirmation, but a private message was sent to William, short, respectful, and cold. "Carry the crown carefully." That phrase leaked, and the press jumped on it. Was it approval or warning? Either way, the silence spoke louder than any royal decree. The father-son bond, long formal, was now wrapped in power and protocol. Historical experts began drawing comparisons. "This is a first," one historian noted. "No British monarch has ever been silently displaced by their own son while still alive and lucid." Some questioned if Charles would eventually formalize the transfer, abdicate, or declare regency. But for now, he remained quiet, a king watching his kingdom from the sidelines. Transition to point 6, 60 words. As the monarch stayed silent and the heir moved forward, the world outside palace walls erupted. Media desks went live. Commentators battled on air. Hashtags flooded timelines. And suddenly, the whole globe had one focus: King William V. But was it legally binding? Morally justified? Or the beginning of a royal rupture? Up next, the media frenzy and global headlines that lit up the world. Media frenzy and global headlines. Within minutes of William's declaration, every major media outlet cut into live coverage. BBC, Sky News, CNN, Al Jazeera, they all ran bold banners. Prince William declares kingship. Is Britain witnessing a royal coup? Studio hosts looked stunned. One Sky commentator muttered on air, "This is real. This is happening." The palace hadn't even updated its website yet. Social media spun into chaos. The hashtag #KingWilliam5 trended worldwide within 6 minutes. Memes showed Charles clutching the crown. Others had William photoshopped in armor. Twitter was divided. "It's time," one user posted. Another said, "This is betrayal masked as bravery." TikTok flooded with edited timelines and dramatic voiceovers. The royal family was now trending harder than the Super Bowl. Royal experts lined up on talk shows. One constitutional lawyer explained, "This is legally murky. William has no authority to name himself king unless Charles formally steps down or Parliament intervenes." Others defended the move, saying the monarchy evolves through precedent. On ITV, a historian warned, "What we're witnessing may become the most transformative moment since the abdication of Edward VIII." Even Commonwealth countries reacted. In Canada, the Governor-General reportedly called London for clarity. Australia's ABC aired a special titled "Crown Under Crisis." Headlines from India to Jamaica questioned Britain's stability. The crown, once a symbol of enduring power, now seemed exposed, open to headlines, hashtags, and heated headlines. William might have declared himself king, but the world now demanded answers. Political and legal backlash. By noon, Parliament was buzzing with outrage. MPs were blindsided. "An unprecedented royal leap," said one opposition leader. In a surprise address, the Speaker of the House called for urgent clarification from the Crown. "Has the monarchy ignored the constitutional process?" he asked. For the first time in decades, Parliament wasn't debating policy. They were questioning the throne itself. Legal scholars appeared across networks. William cannot be king without either Charles's abdication or parliamentary sanction, one Queen's Counsel explained. Another countered, "There is precedent for emergency regency in times of royal illness." But Charles hadn't declared abdication, and he was still alive. The legality hovered like a sword above William's declaration, sharp, uncertain, and controversial. International voices added heat. Canada's Parliament issued a formal inquiry to Buckingham. Does this alter our head of state? In Australia, Republican movements gained momentum. A senator tweeted, "If Britain's crown is being passed mid-breath, why are we still tied to it?" Commonwealth ties began to fray, knot by knot. Some feared a wider unraveling. Back in London, legal papers began circulating. A coalition of constitutional lawyers proposed a review of royal succession procedures. "This isn't just about who wears the crown, it's about how that decision is made," one of them stated. The monarchy had entered a storm of its own making. One misstep now, and the entire institution could be forced to change. Forever. While politicians argued and lawyers drafted memos, William stayed focused. Not on the past, but on what comes next. In the middle of this firestorm, he started outlining his vision. Not just a modern monarch, but a relatable one. It wasn't about power. It was about people. Up next, William's plan for the crown, and how Kate plays a bigger role than ever. William's vision for a new reign. Within 24 hours of declaring himself king, William began to unveil his purpose. In a video shared via the official Kensington account, he spoke directly to the camera. "This is not about tradition for tradition's sake. This is about service," he said. Behind him stood Kate, calm and poised. The message: this reign is modern, personal, and shared. William outlined reforms that had long simmered behind palace doors. "We will streamline operations, reduce taxpayer burden, and refocus the crown on causes that matter," he declared. His first 3 pillars: environmental, action, mental health support, and youth empowerment. "No gilded excess," he added, "just meaningful monarchy." That line instantly hit social media and became a rallying cry. Kate's role became immediately clear. Royal engagements were doubled. She met with school children, hospital workers, and charity leaders within days. She's not just supporting him, she's ruling beside him, a palace aide confirmed. Photos of them in joint meetings and briefings flooded the press. Kate's name trended under #Queen in practice. Her image wasn't ceremonial, it was strategic. Critics still raised eyebrows. "Is this just a PR monarchy?" one historian asked. But younger audiences responded positively. Polls from The Guardian showed a 68% approval rating for the new direction. For William, that was the point. "The monarchy must evolve or risk fading," he said. "I'm not stepping in to hold a crown. I'm stepping up to hold a future." But even as William pushed reform and Kate won hearts, a different battle raged inside the palace. Titles were shifting. Advisors were changing. And for the first time in a generation, the royal household was at war with itself. The old order was crumbling. Coming next, the brutal internal shakeup as William cements power and Charles's court falls into shadow. Palace power shift. Within days, the palace's internal hierarchy was gutted. William replaced Charles's long-trusted advisors with his own younger, more agile team. The Lord Chamberlain was quietly reassigned, and key press officials resigned. One royal staffer described it as a bloodless coup inside the gold walls. In 1 week, centuries-old positions had new names and new loyalties. William brought in advisors from the tech, charity, and public affairs sectors. Not aristocrats, not former courtiers, people with purpose, not pedigree, one source explained. The office now buzzed with words like impact, transparency, and results. One commentator joked, "It feels more like a startup than a royal court." But the message was clear: efficiency over entitlement. Camilla's team wasn't spared. Her PR advisors were quietly let go. Patronages were reevaluated. One source revealed, William wants focus, not family politics. Even Charles's loyal valet was reassigned to Windsor, a symbolic yet chilling move. Those who once walked tall beside the king now faded into the background. The House of Windsor had a new CEO, but the biggest shift was cultural. Aides no longer whispered about royal silences, they tweeted quotes from William. The royal website began updating in real time. No more waiting 3 days for statements. "He's bringing pace to a place built on pauses," said one palace insider. And just like that, a centuries-old monarchy felt like it had rebooted, with one bold move. Public reaction and royalist jeers. On the streets of London, voices echoed both hope and hesitation. "Finally, a monarch that gets it," said one woman outside Westminster. But just steps away, an older gentleman scoffed, "You don't crown yourself. That's not how the crown works." The nation was divided and vocal. William's bold move became every Brit's breakfast table debate. Royal fans defended him fiercely online. Hashtags like #William the Bold and #Kate4Queen flooded Twitter and Instagram. Supporters saw this as bravery. "He's stepping up, not stepping over," read one viral post. In contrast, traditionalists weren't quiet either. A Times columnist wrote, "This is not a fairy tale, it's a breach of duty." And the tension only grew. Polls conducted within 72 hours painted a conflicted picture. 61% supported William as a modern face of the monarchy, but 38% still favored Charles retaining the crown. Older demographics leaned toward tradition, while younger Brits welcomed the shake-up. One pollster remarked, "This is less about loyalty and more about vision." The monarchy wasn't just a symbol anymore, it was a choice. Royal commentators predicted damage or rebirth. One BBC royal analyst declared, "This could fracture the institution or finally future-proof it." Others feared the speed of change. A former palace historian warned, "Once protocol is broken, it's hard to put back." For now, William held the public's curiosity, but he hadn't secured its certainty. But outside public opinion and headlines, one voice still mattered more than the rest: Charles. As the world watched William take power, only the former king could decide what came next. Would he embrace this new order, or push back from the shadows? Up next, Charles's next move, and whether he will stay silent or steal back the spotlight. Charles's next move. Back in Clarence House, Charles remained isolated, but alert. Advisors came and went, bearing updates, press clippings, and quiet questions. Finally, the former monarch called for a private audience with Camilla. "He's ready," one insider leaked. But what that meant was unclear. Ready to return or ready to let go? Rumors of formal abdication spread rapidly. Some claimed Charles was already drafting a public letter. Others suggested he'd request Parliament to formalize William's role through regency. Behind closed doors, he faced a delicate choice: defend a reign he waited decades for, or preserve the crown by passing it forward. A former royal official summarized it simply: "It's legacy versus ego now." Charles reportedly reached out to William privately again. A message was sent reading, "Whatever path you walk, walk it wisely, for your family and for the crown." This time, softer, less warning, more blessing. And within the palace, there were signs of calm. Tension thawed. Aides noticed Camilla rejoining quiet meetings, more ceremonial than strategic. The war wasn't over, but the weapons were down. Yet, public ceremony remained unclear. Would there be a second coronation? Would Charles appear beside William at Trooping the Colour? "We are entering uncharted waters," said one royal reporter. Without formal abdication, Charles still technically reigned, but without action, William ruled. The monarchy stood with one throne and two men hovering above it. As Charles pondered his place in history, the monarchy faced a deeper question. What would this moment mean for its future? Was this a personal choice, or the start of a structural shift? Would future heirs take power earlier too? Next up, how this moment changes everything for the monarchy, from law to legacy, and whether the crown will ever be the same. Wider implications for the monarchy. William's declaration didn't just shake a family, it shook the very structure of the monarchy. For centuries, royal transitions followed death or abdication. Now, a living monarch had been displaced, peacefully but powerfully. One constitutional scholar noted, "This could set a dangerous precedent, or a useful one." The monarchy's most sacred traditions were now fluid. Already, whispers inside government questioned the future of succession. Could heirs begin stepping up earlier by precedent? Would regency become the norm after a monarch hits a certain age? or health benchmark. A Whitehall source stated, "It's time we codify what's always been custom." Monarchs once ruled by divine right. Now, they're operating on the edge of democratic relevance. The Commonwealth's stance became a litmus test. Several countries like Jamaica and Barbados considered revisiting royal allegiance. If their king is chosen by surprise, are they still ours? One Caribbean official asked. The ripple effects were real. William's move created not just domestic headlines, but global re-evaluations. Back home, it forced the public to reconsider what monarchy even means. Is it about ceremony, lineage, or leadership? The palace had long leaned on silence and symbolism, but now it faced something raw: urgency. One commentator wrote, "The old monarchy watched, the new one acts." Whether that's brilliance or blunder remains to be seen. And so, the monarchy enters its final act. For now, with Charles paused, William crowned in practice, and Kate rising fast, the royal chessboard is set. But one question remains unanswered. Will this hold, or will it crack under pressure? Coming up next, the cliffhanger, the tension, and the final question that could redefine an empire. The cliffhanger: the story isn't finished, not even close. As palace officials prepare for upcoming events, there's one glaring omission: Charles's formal stance. Will he reclaim the crown or quietly crown his son? One senior courtier murmured, "This moment feels borrowed. Either Charles will return or rewrite his ending." The king is silent, but his shadow still looms large. William, for now, moves forward. But without formal confirmation, some call his kingship symbolic. He's in charge, but not crowned, one legal expert stated. That gray area may hold for days, or explode within hours. Every public appearance, every wave from a balcony, becomes a statement. The longer the silence, the louder the speculation. Kate remains William's silent co-ruler, beloved, poised, and effective. But even her grace can't hold the spotlight forever. The next event, be it trooping, Garter Day, or a surprise abdication announcement, could tilt the story. One royal photographer said, "I'm ready every day now. This isn't royalty, it's a thriller." And that's the question. What happens next? Will Charles stage a surprise return? Will Parliament weigh in? Could William walk it back? Or is this the first quiet chapter of a new kind of monarchy? Only time, and perhaps one final royal decree, will decide. But one thing is certain: the crown is no longer just worn, it's claimed. As the world watches in disbelief, one question remains: will Charles step aside or strike back? Is this the peaceful evolution of a modern monarchy, or the beginning of a royal rupture? William's move may have been bold, but it's also irreversible. Behind palace walls, lines are being drawn, and outside them, the people are choosing sides. The age of silent heirs may be over. A new king has risen, not crowned by ceremony, but by choice. And this royal drama? It's far from over. Stay with us, because in this story, every whisper could shake a kingdom, and the next twist is just moments away.